Welcome to the Grace Shower Show, a Christian program that takes a dive into our daily challenges and helps us learn our faith in a practical way. My name is Jesse Fires.
I'm Kaylee Fires.
This is Kaylee Fires. We're the Fires. And today we have an amazing opportunity to talk about fitness and health. And is it biblical? Should we take care of our bodies? So that's what we're going to be diving in today.
Yeah.
Kaylee has her master's at where was it?
Towson.
In Towson. She's an occupational therapist. She's a health and fitness coach now too as well. And then for myself, I've been a health and fitness coach for 5+ years, and went to culinary school too as well. So I have a nutrition background in it, and it's just always been a big part of my life. And we just love to just share what we have with you. And the premise for today, kind of the overlining what we're covering is we were created by God in his image, and we have been made into the temple of the Holy Spirit. With this in mind, we must take care of our bodies and be good stewards of what God has given us. But how do we find a healthy balance? So that is the question. How do we find a healthy balance? And we get this from 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, which says, "Know you not that your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit in you, which you have from God, and you are not your own. You are bought with a price. Therefore glorify God in your body, in your spirit, which are God's." So that is a whole topic we're diving into. I think the first point I think of with that verse in mind is being good stewards of what we have. Like it first says, right, we're bought with a price. Like Christ risked his life, laid down his life for us to live and live more abundantly.
Yes.
And huge thing, it says to glorify God in it.
Yeah.
It's like an act of worship, really. We are given this body freely. To glorify God with what, and to, with what we eat, with how we take care of our bodies, because it affects every day of our life. And so maybe you could touch on that just to start.
Yeah. I mean, I think explaining what a good steward is, and basically the definition of that, because some people can be okay, I hear you can be a good steward of finances. We all know what that means, taking care of our finances well, paying off debt, saving money. But what's a good steward in fitness or exercise or taking care of our bodies? And just to be a good steward, or stewardship is conducting or managing something careful. And you have responsible management of something that's entrusted to you. And I like what you said about Christ laying down his life for us. We were bought with a price. So Christ has entrusted this life for us, but it's also not our life, And since it's been entrusted to us, we have to give an account and give credit to who gave us that life in Jesus. And basically what I'm saying is if he gave us this life and he entrusts us to take care of it, let's take care of our bodies. And we can do that in multiple ways. Like you mentioned, nutrition, exercise, and spiritually, of course, but we're going to look into how we can keep our bodies healthy through exercise. I think wellness and to be healthy is really the key point for today.
Yeah. And then to go with that, an application I like to use is if I'm renting out in my home or an apartment, right? Mm-hmm. We're renting it out to people, and it was bought with a price. There's a price on it, but we want those tenants to be good stewards of what, inside. If not, because then I'm going to, be responsible. So I like to think of it like that for us too as well. Why would we just destroy and be careless and loose with what we have, because it does affect us.
Yeah.
And we'll hit on different aspects. So maybe, Kaylee, the first question is, what does the Bible say about taking care of our physical body?
Okay. He says like we have a responsibility to like take care of our body, like our body is a temple of the Holy Spirit. And like you take thinking of just a temple back in the biblical days, like people maintain the temple, people kept it very clean and just like worthy enough, for the Lord. And like, since our bodies are a temple, like, we can look at it that way. Let's keep it worthy enough, like for the Lord. And we don't mean that in a way where we have to be super careful, like all the time. There's grace. We have grace. But that's just a good example of like what it means to like take care of your bodies.
Yeah, I like this this verse, and we could go in Ephesians 5, verse 29. It says, "For no man ever yet hated his own flesh, but nourish and cherish it, even as the Lord for the church." I love that verse. That's a good verse for us. And like, let's break that down. Like, first point is, it says, "No man has ever hated his own flesh." I love this because have you ever heard of, the saying, people hating their own bodies?
Yeah, all the time.
All the time. I hate how I look. I hate how I feel. And this is like, they call it body shaming. Body shaming.
Yeah.
And so I really think that's from the enemy. I think this is the first point, is to love no matter what your body, is, you love it the way it is, in present day. I love what God has given me. I think that's the first point, is to love our bodies and not hate our bodies. Maybe we don't feel good right now. Maybe we don't like the way we look. But hey, I love what God has given me, and now it's like, okay, now I could change and go from there because I first received love.
Yeah. No, I agree. And can you repeat that verse again?
Ephesians 5, 29.
Yeah, can you read it?
Sorry. "No man has ever hated his own flesh, but nourish and cherish it, even as the Lord loved the church."
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so that says like a lot, to nourish and cherish it. And when we nourish our bodies, like we have to think not just only, about exercise, but think about what we're intaking, like with nutrition, or also like nourishing our soul too, and the spiritual need. Like, a lot of Christians, like we take time out of our day to be alone with God. We have our secret place, and we get filled, from the Word, reading the Bible, praying. And that's all of our spiritual. But like also we have to kind of consider like our physical bodies and what we can do, what nourishes our bodies. And that might look different for you, and that might also look different for me, but kind of finding out what suits our bodies like best, and why. Like, why are we nourishing them? Like just to get through our day and the demands that we have, or like, is this more for long term too? And like, we need to have endurance and things to be able to do,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and I love, like, I was reading into, and that's like point number 2 about the nourishing and cherishing.
Yeah.
That word nourish means to bring up, to train, or to mature. So there has to be like training, maturing, involved in that, taking care of our bodies. So training for the physical aspect is me going, to the gym, or me doing a workout from home, whatever that means. I'm training or maturing my body, and bringing it up. And that's like a nourishment that we need. And then the second point is to cherish. And I love this. It means to keep warm or tender love. And I think that as the food aspect. So we have the nourishing of our bodies, which is like the training, we're building, we're lifting weights, however it may be, and we'll talk more about that.
Yeah.
But then there's the cherish, the tender love, and the to keep warm. And that's like, what we eat, what we intake, because we could be overindulgent in some things, as I know earlier in this week, we'll talk about gluttony, and that's like overdoing it. In Proverbs 23, it talks about that. And and that could produce sluggerness and just like and
Yeah.
too much of one thing. It's just like I need a balance, and this is what we're talking about, like having that balance.
Yeah. I like how cherish means like warm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like I mean, I always kind of thinking cherish of a way of when you exercise, your body gets warm. It's a different type of warm.
Yeah.
But like both those words are so soft and so like welcoming, and like maybe that's a good way to kind of look at exercise and nutrition for our bodies. Maybe it's like looking at a warm approach to exercise, a warm approach to nutrition, not something that's like harsh and quick and demanding, but something that can grow and is like warm and cherishable and all these things, and that we can look at exercise with a view that's soft and maybe not intimidating or hard.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, because maybe I'm intimidated to go to the gym, or I'm embarrassed to go because I don't know what I'm doing. I've never done it before. And maybe we could just talk about that a little bit, just in it. Like it tailors to everybody's different, but it could be just starting, at your own home doing exercises, or would you like recommend a coach too as well for someone who hasn't done these things ever? I think that's always maybe a good option to know, because you could do it wrong,
Yeah.
you could overdo it.
Yeah.
And so there's this, and like we don't want to overwhelm. We just want to maybe enlighten and encourage people to, hey, maybe I can change something here or there, and doing the little things first. And then you produce and then progress and see change, knock out the little things. Because if I could have like one spiritual or a physical win each day, or a thing that I'm changing, then I'm going to be encouraged, because I'm going to see growth. If I try to go full at it, gym membership, paying it month to month,
5 a.m.,
and then like a month later, I'm paying for that membership, but I'm not utilizing it because I hurt myself, or I'm just, it's not,
You're burnt out, like you're exhausted.
Yeah.
But that's a good segue into like our next question or like topic. It's like, what does a balanced workout plan like look like for a Christian? And I think a balanced workout plan is going to be different for everybody, because everybody has their own needs, like has their own demands, but at the same time, like as a whole, for Christians, as a whole body, like I think a good plan is always to put God first, and then like the rest, will be added to you. But your workout plan can wait. Like if you need to seek God first. But I like what you said about small things, how we start small with exercise, because that brings me to Zechariah 4:10, the verse. It says, "For who has despised the day of small things?" And I love that verse, because when you start small, it helps you gradually grow, and to learn and get a capacity for something. So if we're talking about exercise, like what's our starting point? Maybe the first starting point is just realizing how you like to move. Like, for example, I don't like running. So like I'm not going to go on a 2-mile run and really enjoy that. And also that's not just going to motivate me or encourage me to keep exercising. You know what I mean? So like first things first, like let's take a step back and like look at, okay, how do I like to move my body? Because exercise can mean a lot of things. It doesn't have to be an F45 class, although we like it to be. It doesn't have to be like going to the gym, lifting heavy weights. Like it can be gardening. It can be going dancing. It can be going for a walk. So figuring how our body likes to move, I think, is like the first small step we can take towards exercising.
Yeah, that's really good. Wow. For me, like I would so what was the question? What does a balanced workout plan look like for a believer?
Yeah,
like you said, it's different for all people. And start with the little things. I would challenge. So this one lady, her name is Barbara O'Neill. and I love the way she breaks down things. But she's all on YouTube. Short story. She's from Australia, and she's like a holistic, natural kind of doctor, and she's also biblical too as well, which I love. She talks about God and she talks about Christ, and but they kicked her out because like she was like against like all these, you know, just man-made medicines and whatnot, and kind of these band-aids that we're used to, you know. But she was like, okay, there's like natural ways to do that and heal. And so she got kicked out of Australia. You know, you could look into that. But now she's in America and she's still doing that. And I love it. She talked about there's like 8 things that she broke down of like changing our having a healthy mindset. And like one was nutrition. Yeah. Another one is exercising. Another one is the way we breathe even. Just like taking a moment to breathe, you know, like we don't breathe properly through our nose and even out through our nose. You know, she was talking about a lot of us are mouth breathers. Yeah. And it's like not the proper way. We're supposed to really do it from the nose. And that promotes what? Relaxation. Yeah. You know, and breathing. Like I heard, like, I remember my mom telling me just like, you know, when you're going through, you know, having a child, they teach you to breathe through the nose, out through, and doing those breaths. You know, why? Because it promotes relaxation.
Well, yeah, and it's also super calming for the nervous system. Like when you take deep breaths, you're supposed to breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth. And that kind of just like settles the whole body and goes back to like a good homeostasis essentially, and calming down that nervous system so your body is just regulated. Yeah. Yeah. So it's good like in those high stress situations. Yeah. Cause you want to calm everything down, but also just to like reset, you know, throughout the day. Let me take a couple deep breaths. Yeah. Maybe after we're talking for this hour, we can take a couple. I'm just
breathe. Breathe. But that's why we work out too, because we're opening up our lungs. We're wanting more oxygen, and you know, inhaling that oxygen to go to the muscles and for the blood flow to go through, you know, our whole body. And that's very important. That's what exercise does. And so, but the other points that she mentioned was just like water intake. And then the last one was like trusting in God. Yeah. And I love that. But she talks about high intensity interval training and what that is. And that's what F45 that Kaylee mentioned earlier. It's just like a high intensity interval training program. And it, like we said, it's different for all people. But she was saying that we could do it in 15 minutes a day. And I love that. So it's what that looks like is 30 seconds of, you know, you're going at it like almost like full speed in whatever you're doing. We could say biking, swimming, hiking, going up a hill, and we could keep it at those, you know, the biking simple. Yeah. 30 seconds you're going hard. And then there's a 90-second rest. Rest doesn't mean you're just not doing anything. Rest means you're more just going through the motions. You're doing maybe arm circles and you're doing it a little slower, but you're still working. And that's your rest. And you do that for 6 cycles. So you're going up, you're going hard for 30 seconds, back down for another 90, and you keep doing that. Maybe it's 60 seconds. It is 90 seconds, but it totals 15 minutes. And that's high intent, and that gets your heart rate up. Yeah. Where it's just like, okay, your body's wanting oxygen. And it's maybe you could touch on this. It's putting like stress on your body, and that's what working out is doing. Yeah. So, Kaylee, answer me this: we are stressed, right? We have jobs that make us stressed. Our bodies are tight, and we're stressed and we're tense. Now you're saying I have to put stress on my body to combat the other stress. Can you make that clear for me, please? And our audience, because we're confused.
Yes, because it sounds confusing. Yeah, I love how you said we're stressed. But no, like we have stressors in our life, I think. We all do. And there is good stress and there is bad stress, but we have demands in our life. We have a work life. We have ministry. We have family life. We have social relationships. It goes on, you know, and there's stressors. Like you have to meet demands at work. You have to beat this or do this for your family. You have to be available for ministry. You know, like these are all stressors we have in our life. And a lot of these are out of our control. You know, like things will happen at work that we are unprepared for, and they bring a stress like onto our bodies. And when that happens, like our adrenaline spikes. And as our adrenaline spikes, like sometimes we go into this fight or flight response. And basically fight or flight, when I'm sure a lot of us are familiar with that term, but that's just our body's way of responding to like a stress, like a psychological stress, essentially, mental stress. And basically when that happens, our adrenaline and our cortisol levels are spiking. So your body, your body's just in overdrive. And why would exercise be beneficial? Like, why would we add more physical stress onto that mental stress? But really, when we are exercising our physical bodies, what happens like in our mind is we're releasing all these endorphins, all these good hormones that are good for the mind and actually reduce the level of adrenaline that's like pumping through our bodies, and gives our bodies a chance to almost like recover from all that stress, releasing so much good endorphins. And we're getting more oxygen, like you said, to our organs. We're getting the blood flow pumping to our organs as well. And all that stuff is really good in regulating the body. Yeah. So that's just like a good psychological response, I guess, to exercise.
Yeah. And I like because like the Bible talks a lot about, you know, the spiritual battle, but like a lot of it being mental, you know, guarding our minds, what comes in and what comes out. And so, you know, with all that going on, you know, we have projections from the enemy and all the stuff. But then, like you're saying, like it could be mostly ourselves too as well, putting that on our own, you know?
Yeah.
Just like overthinking, overworking. And exercise will help kind of clear my mind. Yeah. I have enough to take care of it, enough battle from the enemy. I don't need also to support the enemy with defeating myself, you know?
Yeah.
And that's why we're promoting like healthy activity at your level, small battles, exercise, and eating clean.
Yeah. And exercise is like, it's a good stress that you can also manage in a way. Like, you can prepare for it. You know kind of what you're going into. Like you decide, am I going to walk a mile today or am I going to walk 2? Like you're preparing your mind already for what's to come. You know, sometimes like in our life, we can't prepare for these other circumstances.
Correct.
You know, and that's why I think it's important. Yeah, just take exercise too, one step at a time. I think this whole thing started from that question, like what does a balance lifestyle look like for as a Christian for exercising?
And I want to hit on the last part of that Ephesians verse that we remember, Ephesians 5:29. It says, even as the Lord, like no one hates their bodies. No one has ever hated their body. They nourish and cherish it, even as the Lord loved the church. And what did the Lord do? Like he laid down his life for it. Like, does God correct his church?
Yes.
He does. And so like I like to think of this for ourselves is like training and disciplining, you know?
Yeah, because he corrects us out of love. You know what I mean? So I like what you said about training and discipline, because we're doing this to our bodies out of
love.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily want to, right?
No.
Maybe, but like I'm doing it because it's like correcting my body, training my body, just to feel better and overall health. And then we'll go through that the next 2 questions. But like for the food wise, I think that's we could just maybe touch on that one point and then we'll go on to the next question. Just eating, like, do I want to eat the celery? Why are you laughing?
I like celery.
You what?
I like celery, but
it's just like I would rather, of course, have the burger than the celery. You know, I would rather, but this is like the discipline aspect. I'm gonna eat the celery because it's good for me, and because it's good for and it's gonna help. It helps with digestion, all this other stuff, like eating the greens, and choosing that. I don't always have to do it. I could have it have other things in moderation, and that's a huge thing. But to have a burgers, fries, pizza every other day, we just live in a world that's just like we're putting this extra stress, not even on our like outwardly, but inwardly on our inner organs, and it's just not our body's not processing the way it did in the old times.
You know, it's not, and plus like our food is so chemically engineered now, you know, fast food, like our quick food that's easy for us. We're not getting the nutrients in our food like maybe the people did back then, like even in biblical times, like, you know, pesticides, like we can go on and talk about that, but we're just not getting the nutrition, you know, but with that being said, there is a balance, you know, like we don't want everyone to like, you know, to go to the grocery stores and start complaining about my food's not organic. No, like we have a balance and we can choose what we eat that's going to be nourishing like for our bodies. And also when we're exercising, we don't want to go through all that like good stress on our bodies and replenish our bodies with unhealthy food. You know, like why would we go through all that work and hard work that we did to just fuel our bodies with like sugar and things that aren't going to help the growth of our bodies or help nourish it, you know? So that's kind of a good thing to think about. Like maybe I exercise, I did all this work. Let me replenish myself with like some fruit or a vegetable that's going to give me even more nourishment. So essentially like that hard work isn't for nothing, you know? But I kind of want to just summarize before we move on to begin again with working out and what's a balanced lifestyle look like. I think it's really important to know like there's a season for everything in our life. And there's a verse in Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1, to everything there's a season and a time for every purpose under heaven. So we hear people at the gym all the time, man, I used to run 4 miles every morning. I used to be able to bench 250. I don't know. You hear these things and you're like, right now I can't do it. I'm struggling. And like, we hear you. And like maybe 4 years ago, you didn't have this job that required more of your time, or maybe you didn't have like
children now,
3 children under the age of 6. Where do you're not going to have the energy like you did 4 years ago when you didn't have children. You know, like you have to kind of look at your life and the circumstances that you have and find a balance of what works for you. So if you're parents of young children, you've got your own lives to manage, but then you have theirs and you have a busy schedule. Maybe you don't have the time to go work out for an hour. Okay. And maybe you also don't have the strength to lift heavy weights at the gym because you're carrying a 2-year-old on your hip. You know, I don't know. So, but what can you do in your life that's going to like balance and work well with the circumstances that God has for you right now? Like look at the season, be wise, be led by the Spirit, and see what can actually help energize you rather than deplete you even more in your schedule.
Yeah, that's really good. And like I'm going through a season now where I'm not even like working at the gym anymore. And so now I had to like refine, and I'm struggling it with myself, you know? And, but now I'm focusing more on just being outside, being active, whether golfing or disc golfing, or just make sure I'm walking a lot more. And so I think that is huge. Like we could do it however, and disc golfing, it's cool because it's like golfing, but it's poor man's golf, they call it. And but you're outside, you're walking to the holes and you're running around, and I'm seeing people make it into an exercise too as well. So they're doing this and they're doing push-ups in between, they're doing squats in between. Circuit. I'm like, that's a little much for me right now because it's hot. But yeah, you can make it your own, and I like it even, you know, I could do it when I'm cooking my meal at home. I could drop down and do some squats.
That's true. What? I love that.
Yeah, like I don't have time. It's just like we don't want like excuses gonna get in the way. There's always gonna be reasons why not to. We
Yeah.
just want to promote, yes, you can do it, and yes, you can find time. And that's a huge thing about the 5 a.m.ers, as you mentioned earlier. People have to wake up early just because that's the only time they can do it. And but this will produce, energy. It will produce, I mean, it'll be hard at first, and everything
That's
is
true.
hard
Yeah.
in the first foremost. But like we said, being patient and having little victories too as well.
Yeah.
And it'll help you in the long run.
And no, we're always standing in his grace.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, that alone.
I would like to go to First Timothy 4:8.
4:8. Okay.
Yeah, we'll go. I mean, I'm sure everybody has been listening to this and saying, "Oh, they're going to go there right away," but we didn't.
Yeah.
The classic verse, okay? 1 Timothy 4:8. For bodily exercise profits little, but godliness is profitable unto all things. Having promise of life that is now and of which is to come. So maybe, Kaylee, if you want to start on that, or do you want me to start? What is that verse? Break down that verse.
Well, yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
You can break down the verse.
So, like, it's just like, yeah, so we hear, this is the classic gym kind of, besides Philippians, with Christ, I can do all things who strengthens me.
Yeah.
That's a huge gym lifting verse.
I know.
But this one is just like, oh, he said exercise profits little. And, that word, like, profits little, it's talking about, like, time, too, as well. It's very temporal. So it's here, it profits little because it's just for us in this earthly bodies.
Yeah.
So exercise profits little, and it's saying godliness is for, it's long term, it's for eternity.
Yeah.
And so it's amazing. And I love this verse because it's comparing spiritual development with physical development. Like there is a parallel between these things, different but also very same. How you can like get to that, and so these are. There's a few points that I want to make. It's how like growth happens between these two. One is time and patience. Time and patience spiritually. I need time growing in the Word of God. How do I intake this Word? It could be overwhelming.
Yeah.
We keep repeating like small things at a time.
Yeah,
Time and patience. Two is proper knowledge and wisdom. It's opening up the book spiritually and getting sound doctrine taught to me. Physically, I would say just like a trainer, or just like even looking up videos like how to do the exercise properly.
Yeah.
Because there's a right way and a wrong way. And we want to encourage people to exercise, but you have to be very careful too as well in that point. Do you want to say something before I keep going?
No, thank you for asking.
Of course.
I like that. I like when you broke down the verse and says like, for bodily exercise profits little, and little meaning like temporal. I like that because like exercise is good for our bodies, but when people read that verse, they can be like, oh, exercise does nothing for your body, because they can take it so literally.
Yes. Okay.
Right. So I took that verse like so literally at first before we were doing like this study, but it's temporal. So it's good to think about that, like, because our lives are temporal on this earth. They're not eternal. Our bodies, but our bodies are. Our lives are eternal. Yes, our bodies are temporal. So
I thought at one point you said tempura. And that's just like the food in me. See,
don't even want to be encouraging.
That's fried food, tempura fried food. That's our minds.
Yes, but to just distinguish that, and to also like realize that like godliness is like eternal, and our citizenship. Well, now I'm just You got me messing up on the words. Our citizenship is in heaven.
Yeah.
So, like, what
Yes.
does that mean? And you can go on to explain more.
Yeah. On the citizenship,
Or no, just what you were going to say before.
yes. I mean, we're going to be with God in heaven, and that is going to be eternity, and we're going to have spiritual bodies,
Yeah.
and that's going to be amazing with Christ. We have citizenship in heaven. So, and we reigning with him. But the third point is discipline. Both take discipline, spiritual development and physical development have a place of discipline in it. For self-control, that is huge. Self-control from like we said earlier, indulging in certain foods. What's gonna fuel me up or what's gonna crash me down? In America, we just have anywhere in the world we just have an excess sugar. And it's just like fast food, quick, easy, and then back then it wasn't like that, so it's totally different. 5, it takes effort.
Yeah.
Both of them have an effort spiritually and physically. And then 6 is proper feeding. Am I getting fed from the world or the word? And that's like spiritual. And then feeding, like we're diet, just like eating healthy choices. I can have the ice cream every once in a while.
Yeah.
Maybe not every night. I could have, the burger and that's fine, but in moderation with all things. And because really just like we don't want to be, and maybe we could go to this question, just like, why do we do these things? Like, what is the motivation? Like Kaylee Fires, why should I change my diet right now? Or why should I even exercise? Maybe we could talk about, as we come close to the end, what's the proper motivation for people to do these things and change these habits?
There's a lot, I think. From a therapist standpoint.
I'm in trouble.
No. Preventative medicine. I want to call it preventative medicine, like exercise and eating healthy. Because right now, we're not thinking what we're going to be in like 30 years. We're not thinking about our bodies. We're not thinking about like our mobility. We're not thinking about that. And that's good. Like we shouldn't always be thinking about 30 years ahead. Like we should be thinking about now and being in the present, like being in the presence with God and just taking one thing at a time. But like working with geriatrics, like I've seen people who haven't taken care of their bodies.
Yeah.
These people are struggling. These people are relying on walkers, on wheelchairs and stuff to get around. And I've seen people who are 100 years old walk. And this is just a difference of living more of an active lifestyle. I'm not going to this doesn't mean going to gym every day, but living actively, cherishing your body, feeding it good foods, and being able to walk and still do things and move your body when you're close to 100 years old or 100 years old, rather than some of the people who didn't and need so much help, and they're actually in pain to move their bodies. They're in pain to stand up. They can't walk, and how can we prevent that stuff from happening later on? It's just little things that we can choose, like to exercise and, to eat healthier, make better choices.
Yeah.
Without the medical standpoint, like also like how is exercise, how can we use this to fellowship with people like outside of the church? We can be with the body outside, do group things, like everyone can go on a hike together, I don't know, or do a fitness class together, do something that we can all be together as a hobby and fellowship, spend time together afterwards. And this is like a better activity than a lot of other choices that the world offers,
Yeah.
And then also I talked about just, your overall health and just being like a good advocate for yourself, like now and later on. And obviously to prevent against diseases like people have with a sedentary lifestyle,
Yes.
We are so at risk for cardiovascular diseases, like type 2 diabetes, like all these other diseases that come from just sitting.
Yeah.
you know, like having joint pain from just sitting, for like gaining weight and having our joints like just bear all that excess weight. Like that's bad for our bones, but also for our muscles too. So like, you know, just like to be aware of these things now for
Yeah,
later.
because like like you said, back in the day, like during, you know, biblical times, one, like they didn't eat as much because food wasn't as accessible. They had to go out for their food, go to the city for their food. And then two, they moved a lot more. You know, they had to go to the well for the water, you know, doing daily chores, whatever it is. They're a lot more active. Now, fast forward to us, we eat a lot more now because food is more readily accessible and available. It's easy to grab in the cabinet, and it could be cooked in seconds.
Yeah.
And then we now move a lot less. So we
Yes.
completely changed. And so now we're saying, why is it important to exercise? This is because this is the way we're made. We were made to move around. We're made to be active. And choosing a healthy lifestyle and being active can help me in ministry, you know, because I'm present. I'm present in the body, you know. I'm not a liability too as well, you know. I'm not like I'm like just clear mind. We talked about too as well. I'm mentally cleared.
You're alert.
I'm more energetic to go on the mission trip, you know, to raise a family and all these great things that God, you know, has made us and ordained us to do.
To have also like exercise, you know, promotes like this physical strength, and balance, and endurance. Like, you know, we need endurance also just outreaching. When it's 100 degrees in Baltimore or Richmond, wherever we're walking, you know, a mile or so, and you need just stamina. You need endurance to walk and to have energy to knock on those doors. You don't want to knock on someone's door and you're like, have some water. You know? I mean, maybe you can open a conversation, but to have energy and to come to the door with, you know, with a lot of joy, a lot of light, and to you know, exercise just helps us have that endurance and stamina to do that.
Yeah. I know for like when we went overseas, these long
Flights.
airplane flights. I was going to say rides, but I guess you would fly, not ride. It was just, I felt, because you're just sitting in one area, you'll walk around, to go to the bathroom and just around the plane. But just, the tension in my hips, and now I'm having back issues, and now it's just like, it's like a thorn. It's a hindrance, and it causes me to. It really affects me in a way. And can the enemy use food, or can the enemy use different things? It's all biblical.
Absolutely.
Yes, he can. And we're just saying, hey, like, we just want to enlighten you and just make you guys aware that an active and healthy lifestyle is like the best way to go, and do it not because you have to, but it's needed, but make it fun.
Yeah.
And do it and tailor it to your lifestyle too as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, when we're reading the Bible and things, and we're maybe someone's just starting out, or we haven't picked up the Bible in a week, it can be daunting to like open up, but we read one verse, we take it, one verse at a time. We pray for a little bit, but then over time, like our capacity grows because it's out of love, like our relationship grows with God because we hear from him, and like he teaches us and he tells us things, and we love that. So like, why can't we look at exercise also as an expression of love, not, just something that we have to do? I think that's like the takeaway.
And our bodies are made to move, not be stagnant. If we're stagnant, it's just like there's nothing moving, nothing's growing. I'm not being challenged. But when I move and lift weights and be active, however it may look for some people, I'm getting challenged. And isn't that the same when we go on the mission field? We're spiritually challenged, or physically challenged, all these ways. But this can be a part of our preparation, and say, hey, I want to go on the mission field, but I want to be healthy, not for sure spiritually, go to Bible college, get the word, you have to be, but also physically, because, you know, I could go overseas and be so unhealthy, and now maybe I could be, you know, God forbid something happens on the mission field. Now I become a burden to others. And so, but you know what? God is in control of it all. Yeah. And we've seen people just drink Dr. Pepper their whole lives, and they're 100 years old, and you know, it's all God knows, you know. And I think the thing is to trust in God. You know, trusting God is a huge thing with your health, and pray about it, you know. Yeah. And we're not saying, oh, we're praying to God and while eating a burger, Lord, please make me healthy. And I'm eating all these unhealthy foods. It's just like, God, what has God got to do with that? It's just like, no, make an effort. Yeah. Make a change. And we have many blessings in our world today that we are now aware of this, like we weren't before. And so maybe a closing thought, Kaylee, as we conclude. One word, couple sentences.
Oh my gosh, like maybe more than one word. I think maybe, you know, today in today's society, like a lot of people think exercise is just supposed to make you look good. It's all about appearance, and maybe Christians have stepped away from that because they don't want to just, you know, go for the wrong reasons, maybe to exercise. But we just hope today, like, this gave you a better light on exercise and why it's actually important and how you can be exercising to really glorify God and to not glorify self.
Amen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is good. All right. So thank you for joining us today. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, Apple Podcast, and all the other stuff. Be sure to join us next time. And we just thank you for having the Fires here on the Grace Hour. You guys have a blessed and healthy day. Amen.